A man walked through a dark alley while two men sat on the stairs nearby. One of them said, "Let's go run a hustle," and the other laughed. The main character lived in a studio complex, a 5 pyong or 16.3 square meters rooftop room that was loud and dirty every single day. Holding an instant ramen, he let out a sigh of disappointment because his dinner, once again, was instant ramen. His name was Bong Joo-hyuk, a 25-year-old man working 3 part-time jobs, at a convenience store, a barbecue restaurant, and as a laborer. There was a simple reason why working this hard never allowed him to save any money. Just like many others, it was because of debt. Every cent he earned went toward paying it back, even if it meant living in poverty. He had no special skills, only a healthy body, so he believed there was no bright future waiting for him. As he ate his instant ramen, he accepted that he was nothing more than a mediocre beta male. Then, all of a sudden, a notification appeared in front of him, stating that he had awakened. He froze in shock. A moment later, he shouted, partly because of the hot ramen, and partly because of the notification floating before his eyes. He still could not believe it and wondered if he had truly awakened. People often call awakening a blessing. If someone did well, they could hit a jackpot and completely turn their life around, perhaps an even greater fortune than winning the lottery. But that blessing could only be enjoyed if one stayed alive, and entering the tower was incredibly dangerous. Bong Joo-hyuk was completely a wimp. His mind immediately filled with all the terrifying possibilities inside the tower, being torn to shreds by monsters, freezing or burning to death in extreme environments, getting poisoned or being crushed by a trap, and so on. He always avoided injustice and danger whenever he could. When passing by tugs, he would fake a phone call. He avoided walking under construction sites. For 25 years, he had lived as a lower-tier man, a mere commoner. He slowly put down his chopsticks, wondering whether this was truly awakening or if he had simply dozed off from exhaustion. Then he stretched his arm forward and shouted, "Status window!" His status window appeared right in front of him. It displayed his name, his affiliation marked as black, his current level as 1, and his trait as summon. With that, Bong confirmed that he had truly awakened, and that his trait was summons. An awakener is granted an ability known as a trait. These traits vary widely, including swordsmanship, spearmanship, shielding, archery, fighting spirit, gigantification, smash, summon, heal, and many more. Among them, summon is known for allowing the use of beings such as spirits, phantom beasts, golems, and magic beasts. It is an ability that lets the user utilize specific types of summoned creatures. Bong became curious about what kind of summoner he was. He decided to try using what he imagined would be a cool skill. He shouted, "Skill summon!" Nothing happened. He tried again. Random summon. Still nothing. Then he remembered. Skills cannot be used outside the tower. Player abilities, including skills, are only valid inside the tower and cannot be activated elsewhere. The only exception is the ability to check the system status window. Outside the tower, a player is no different from a normal person. All of this information was common knowledge if one searched the internet, something Bong had completely forgotten. Just as he accepted that skills could not be cast outside the tower, a system message suddenly appeared, stating that it was initiating a random summon. Bong was shocked. A burst of light exploded in front of him, and a red-haired man appeared. He looked exactly like an assassin. Bong stood frozen in confusion. Why was his skill working outside the tower, and why had he summoned a person instead of a typical summoned creature like a spirit or a golem? The red-haired man confirmed that he was indeed a person. Bong's mind was filled with questions. Why had his skill worked outside the tower, and why had he summoned a human? Before he could ask anything, the red-haired man sniffed the air. He had caught the scent of Bong's ramen. He asked if he could have one bite. Bong allowed it. The red-haired man began eating the ramen. Bong thought to himself, that he had summoned a one-bite bandit. After a single slurp, the red-haired man said it was too spicy and wondered if it was a newly released spicy flavor. Bong looked at him in disappointment. It was mild udon. If he thought that was spicy, then he was clearly a spicy wimp. But Bong's mind soon returned to the bigger issue. His skill had worked outside the tower, and he had summoned a human, something he had never heard of before. He opened his status window again. Additional information appeared. He could summon humans and demi-humans with ranks, similar to pulling characters in a gacha game. The ranks ranged from rare, super rare, special super rare, up to legendary, special super rare. It also stated that the summoner and the summoned could communicate smoothly under any circumstances. Another notification appeared, explaining that the summoned adheres to 3 principles. First, the summoned must prioritize and protect the summoner's life. Second, the summoned must absolutely obey the summoner's commands. Third, if Principles 1 and 2 conflict, Principle 1 takes highest priority. Bong was delighted to learn about the absolute obedience. However, he was still curious about the identity of the human he had summoned. Suddenly, information flowed directly into his brain. The summoned's name was John Corsack, also known as the Mad Assassin of the Cruel Guild. His rank was super rare. He was a human assassin and could be resummoned 3 hours after dismissal. John had been the black sheep of the Cruel Assassin Guild, a truly mad assassin. Despite that, his mission success rate was 99%. He had even succeeded in assassinating a 5th Circle black mage. After that, the information became incomprehensible. Bong's head began to ache. Then his eyes shone and his astral form was dragged into John's last memory. John was running straight toward Bong's astral form. He passed through him and attacked 3 people without hesitation. After ending them, he wrapped their heads with red ribbon. Bong watched in disbelief and called him crazy. It looked as if he was wrapping the heads as gifts. At that moment, Bong fully understood why he was called mad. John then tilted his head and looked toward a mansion, the place where he met his end. His death had been caused by a single failure. His target inside the mansion had been the Empire's strongest swordmaster. John's final memory was being cut in half by that swordmaster. Suddenly, everything returned to reality. John appeared behind Bong and whispered, "What are you thinking about?" Bong stumbled and ran away in panic. John immediately apologized and explained that he only wanted to ask if there was anything Bong needed him to do. Though still frightened, Bong reminded himself that the summoned were bound by absolute obedience. There was no need to be scared. He took a deep breath and ordered John to put away the ramen pot and wipe the table. John followed the commands without hesitation. Bong was surprised by how fast John moved and by the fact that he did not complain at all. This confirmed that John truly carried out everything he was told. Bong then called John over and asked whether even ridiculous commands had to be followed. John replied that complete obedience to the words of the summoner was mandatory. Bong decided to test it further. He ordered John to squeak like a dog. John's expression turned serious, and he slowly put down the towel. For a moment, Bong thought he had crossed the line. John had been a powerful figure with immense pride in his previous life. Bong feared he might suddenly snap and attack him. But John followed the order. He squeaked like a dog. Bong felt satisfied. This truly was absolute obedience. He gave John a thumbs up. Then someone began knocking loudly on the door. A voice shouted from outside, confirming that Bong was inside and ordering him to open the door immediately. Bong felt his heart sink. He had forgotten that it was the due date for his interest payment. He quickly ordered John to get up. Bong had borrowed 10 million won. The banks refused to lend him anything, so he had no choice but to turn to a private loan. He used the money for his father's hip fracture surgery after his father slipped on ice, and also to pay for his siblings' university tuition. He believed he could repay it quickly, but even after paying over $5 million, won in interest, the principal remained unchanged. He knew borrowing from them had been a stupid decision, but he had no other choice. Even if he could go back in time, he would make the same decision again. The person outside shouted once more, saying he only wanted to confirm that Bong was still alive. Bong turned to John. The assassin had already drawn his knives, silently waiting for the command to sever the people outside. Bong immediately refused. He understood that John would create a massive problem in the future. Bong pushed John toward the bathroom and ordered him to hide, keep his mouth shut and not move an inch or make a sound. John calmly asked if he was still allowed to breathe. Bong told him yes. After that, Bong opened the door. A thug wearing a golden necklace stood there. He said he was glad Bong was safe, as he had been worried when the interest payment had not come in that day. Bong nervously apologized and admitted that he had forgotten. He quickly proceeded to transfer the payment. The thug then told Bong not to overdo it. If money became too tight, he suggested that Bong sell his organs and get comfortable living with just one kidney. Another man standing outside added, "Doesn't he have a younger sibling, boss?" The boss nodded and said a sibling would be fine, since younger ones fetch a higher price. Bong felt fury rising inside him. The man with the golden necklace suddenly narrowed his eyes and asked what was with Bong's expression. It looked as if he was about to strike him. Bong forced out a laugh and said there was no way he would ever dare to do that. The thugs finally left, warning Bong to be careful, unless he wanted to disappear without a trace. Once they were gone, John stepped out of the bathroom. Bong felt a strange sense of pride at how well John had hidden himself. John calmly explained that he had only followed the order given to him. Bong suddenly felt exhausted. After working 2 part-time jobs, experiencing his awakening, summoning a human, and dealing with debt collectors, all in one day, his body and mind were drained. He wondered if he truly needed to climb the tower to repay his debt. The money would be great, but someone like him climbing the tower, it felt impossible. He was afraid. John then asked what they should do next. Bong did not know either. He asked John if he wanted to go back, offering to use summon dismissal on him. John raised his hand and asked if he could watch some TV, since it had been a long time since he had seen one. Bong found it strange that his summon knew about TV and even ramen, but he saw no reason to refuse. So he agreed. John thanked him and began watching free episodes of a drama, while Bong lay down on his bed to rest. As he watched John from the corner of his eye, Bong realized something. Even though John was a summoned entity, it did not feel bad having someone beside him. It was oddly comforting. He had been working himself to death alone all this time. Not long after, Bong fell asleep. He woke up around 8. John was nowhere to be seen. Bong assumed he had been dismissed. The manifestation period was only 6 hours. He vaguely remembered that a system window might have appeared while he was half asleep. He then stood up, and Bong muttered that, awakened or not, he still had to get ready for work. As he brushed his teeth, breaking news suddenly played on the TV. He listened absent-mindedly at first. The report was about the office of an illegal private loan agency called Smile Cash. A grotesque murder had occurred there. The name sounded familiar to him. The news anchor continued. There were 3 victims, all found decapitated. Then came the final detail. All the victims' heads had been decorated with red ribbons. Bong's toothbrush slipped from his hand and hit the floor. He froze in shock. The image from John's last memory flashed through his mind, the red ribbons wrapped neatly around severed heads. A chill ran down his spine. Bong realized, with horror, that his summon was a complete psycho. Some photos from the Smile Cash crime scene quickly spread online, and they were horrifying. Bong looked through all of them. His hands trembled as his inner voice kept screaming over and over, "We're screwed." After seeing the images, he became certain that the one responsible was the person he had summoned, John Corsack. While standing at the cash register in the convenience store where he worked, Bong stared blankly at his phone. A customer approached and asked him to ring up the items. For a moment, Bong hallucinated. He saw severed heads wrapped in red ribbons instead of the products on the counter. He gasped and stepped back in fear. Then everything returned to normal. The customer looked at him with concern and asked if he was okay. Bong quickly apologized and scanned the items without saying another word. On his way home, he admitted to himself that he could not work properly in his current state. He decided to take a break from all his part-time jobs the next day. As he walked, a heavy question weighed on him. Were those men dead because of him? That night, inside his small studio complex, Bong stared at the catalog description of his first summon. It clearly stated that John was a mad assassin. Even though he knew John could not harm him, he still felt uneasy. He decided to summon John Corsack again. Before the designated summon could proceed, a system notification appeared. It informed him that he needed to leave a satisfaction rating by assigning a star rating. Bong finally understood why there was a satisfaction rating in the catalog. He raised his middle finger in the air and muttered that he had only told John to watch TV, yet John had gone out and committed unsolicited bloodshed. He wanted to give him 1 star for being utterly impudent. However, he could not bring himself to be that heartless. His mother worked as a rental water purifier coordinator, so he knew how painful a low satisfaction rating could be. Even if there were complaints, he still could not give a 1-star rating. That was a beta male's star rating system, he told himself. In the end, he gave John 3 stars. The system then proceeded with the summon. John appeared instantly, saluted, and declared, "Loyalty, it's a pleasure to see you again." He even thanked Bong for the 3-star rating and promised to work harder. Bong stared at him. John looked so innocent that it was hard to imagine someone like him assassinating 3 people. After a moment, Bong asked directly whether he had truly killed the men who came to his place the other day. John acknowledged it proudly. He said he had done it right before he was reverse summoned. Bong stepped back in shock. It was real. The man standing in front of him was truly the killer. His stomach began to churn, and his heart raced uncontrollably. He forced himself to calm down, reminding himself that John could not hurt him. Bong asked John how he managed to find the loan agency's office, since he should not have known their location. John explained that when the men stormed Bong's home, he secretly implanted a mark of tracking on them. Because of that, he knew exactly where they were. Mark of tracking sounded like a skill, Bong thought. He then asked John why he went that far. John replied that the 3 men were a threat to Bong, and it was best to eliminate them in advance. Bong was confused. He had never given that command. John calmly explained that it was because of the 3 principles, 3rd article of the summoned. He said it was still absolute obedience, but it could be overridden if the summoner was in danger. Bong gave an example. If he, the summoner, ordered John to kill him, would John disobey? John answered that he would. That was correct. Bong argued that there had been no actual threat. It was simply John's independent judgment. But John insisted that Article 3 was broadly interpreted. In his view, those men were a risk factor who would eventually threaten the summoner's life. Therefore, eliminating them was reasonable. Bong interrupted him and called him a psycho. Then he quickly stopped himself and apologized. John did not mind. He said he had been called that many times before. Still, Bong could not accept John's way of thinking. His judgment could be extremely dangerous. For example, if they were walking down a crowded street and accidentally bumped into some gangster-looking man, that person might threaten Bong, saying, "You want to die? I'll gouge your eyes out." It would just be a threat, nothing more. But according to John's judgment, it would not end there. Bong muttered to himself, imagining what John might do in that situation. Suddenly, John knelt down and apologized. Bong was startled and told him to get up. He explained that murder was not something John should do for his sake. It could put him in an even worse situation. John reassured him that no one would ever find out. Bong asked him to promise he would not do it again. John replied that he could not guarantee that. Bong waited for him to agree properly. He said that if there was already a knife at his throat, that would be different, but killing someone purely based on conjecture was. Before he could finish, John stood up straight, saluted, and shouted, "Yes, sir." He promised to judge situations more carefully. Bong sighed in relief. At least John was responsive. He told John he could go back now, but before being dismissed, John asked something unexpected. Was Bong not going to climb the tower? Bong froze. He knew climbing the tower could change his life, but he was terrified. It was too dangerous. He could die. He asked John if there had been other summoners before him. John confirmed that there had been, and they were truly strong and brave people. Bong felt embarrassed. Some people would use their abilities to save the world, yet he did not even have the courage to risk his own life. He muttered that he was a pathetic coward. But John disagreed. He said Bong was the best summoner. Bong stared at him in confusion. John explained that the greatest virtue of a summoner was to prioritize their own safety. No one knew when death would come, and if a summoner died, the summoned entities would never be able to come out again. That was why John was so obsessed with protecting him. John told Bong not to worry. He would handle all the dirty work. Bong only needed to take care of himself and live a long life. The next day, Bong barely slept. He agonized all night over whether to climb the tower. In the end, he still lacked the courage. He told himself he should just be thankful that the debt collectors and the debt itself were gone. He stepped outside and decided he would continue living safely and doing ordinary work. If he lived diligently, things would eventually improve. Then his phone rang. It was his father. Bong asked if he was keeping up with his rehabilitation. His father replied that he might need to move to a bigger hospital. He also mentioned that Bong's mother had been fired. Still, he told Bong not to worry. He only called because he had not heard from him for a while. Bong ended the call saying he would visit soon so they could eat together. Back inside his room, Bong began putting on all kinds of protective gear. He even grabbed a metal bat. He decided he would take a quick look at the first floor of the tower and leave immediately if it became dangerous. It was good timing since he had taken the day off from all his part-time jobs. As he prepared to summon John, a thought crossed his mind. He did not necessarily have to stick with him. Maybe if he summoned again, he could pull a legendary special super rare. But a notification appeared. Summoning was impossible. He needed to wait for the cooldown, 28 days, 11 hours, 8 minutes, and 37 seconds. Bong had no idea the cooldown lasted an entire month. With no other choice, he summoned John. As always, John appeared with a salute and thanked Bong for the 5-star rating he had received. Bong silently hoped John did not know he had tried to summon someone else. He told John that he had decided to go to the tower. John looked pleased and called him brave, then immediately corrected himself, saying he must not be brave. Bong explained that he only planned to take a small look and bail out. John agreed and called him wise. Then John advised him to remove all the crude protective gear he was wearing. Instead, he would serve as the summoner's tool and hunting dog. He assured Bong that he would drive the party comfortably and safely. Bong would not need to lift a single finger. A system notification appeared. "Do you wish to enter the first floor of the Black Tower, Republic of Korea?" They chose to proceed. In an instant, they were teleported. Bong panicked as it felt like he's falling from the sky. Bong shouted as they were transported into the tower, and soon they arrived inside a cave. He was shocked to see that the first floor was a complete wasteland. Suddenly, he felt intense discomfort and started vomiting. John tapped his back, asking if he was okay and reassuring him that he would soon get used to the feeling of transportation. After recovering, they walked out of the cave, which was a safe zone. A notification appeared, stating that Bong's physical abilities had been enhanced to match his level and that he could now use traits and combat skills. Bong was amazed by how much stronger he felt even at a level 1. Now he understood what it meant to be a player. Their mission was to defeat 5 fat grubs with tough skin within 2 hours, with failure resulting in death or mission abandonment. They soon saw slug-like creatures crawling across the wasteland. From what Bong had learned online, the first floor was meant to test a player's skills, and these fat grubs were like training dummies, low in attack power but difficult to kill due to their tough skin. Some players could only kill one every 30 minutes. Wanting to try it himself, Bong decided to approach one grub, but John panicked and questioned why he needed to struggle. Bong moved closer, only to realize he had no weapon, so he turned back to borrow one from John. At that moment, the grub suddenly moved and stood up, causing Bong to freeze. When he checked again and realized how big it was, he quickly called for John's help. John approved of his decision and instantly killed the grub with a single elbow strike. He then attacked the remaining monsters, throwing them into the air, launching knives mid-air, and finishing them with blade explosion before returning to Bong. Bong was amazed at how quickly he finished all the remaining monsters. Then notifications appeared. He had cleared the first floor, leveled up, received 100 grams of magic stone, and earned a platinum badge with an S++ conquest rating. He was thrilled at how easy it was, and started imagining becoming rich, unaware that the same notice had appeared to every player in South Korea. They were immediately teleported back to his apartment, and Bong received a notification that he could now challenge the second floor. Checking his phone, he was shocked that everything had taken only under 5 minutes. John praised Bong for his hard work. Even though Bong had done nothing, John said, and that was well done. Bong just accepted it in confusion. While others struggled and became exhausted, it had been effortless for him. He then examined his reward and saw a magic stone for the first time. It was a crucial resource used in modern technology, now worth about 50,000 Korean won per 100 grams. Although most knowledge about the towers was widely known, Bong had never heard of a platinum badge. As John watched drama on TV, Bong felt satisfied earning that much money so quickly. Later, he ordered food, choosing regular pork trotters since John could not handle spicy food, though John insisted he still smelled something spicy. Bong thought he was truly a spicy wimp. John then started eating and said he appreciated the kindness of Bong once again. As they ate, Bong asked about John's formal speech, and John explained it came from his previous summoner. Bong compared it to an ex-boyfriend influence, and John offered to change it if it was uncomfortable, but Bong said it was fine and even amusing. They both laughed, and after this experience, Bong became convinced that conquering the tower was not dangerous with John's help. The next morning, Bong created a pie chart for his daily routine. He decided to keep his convenience store job during the day and his charcoal grill restaurant job at night, but quit his day labor work. Instead, he would return home early to conquer the tower with John. After summoning him again, John saluted and thanked Bong for another 5-star rating. Bong said he would give 10 stars if he could, which made John happy. Curious, John explained that higher satisfaction ratings gave him benefits such as longer manifestation time, rank promotion, and a higher chance of being summoned. They then entered the second floor of the Korean Black Tower, where their mission was to defeat 10 fat grubs with quick wits within 2 hours. These grubs were faster than expected, surprising Bong. When he asked what to do, John said there was no need to worry, since he would finish everything in 3 minutes. He leapt forward, promising to clear the quest quickly and escort Bong home. Bong asked if they should order chicken and beer afterward, and John gratefully agreed while quickly finishing the monsters as promised. Soon, Bong received another notification. They had cleared the second floor, leveled up, received 200 grams of magic stone, and earned another platinum badge with an S++ rating. Bong began to question whether achieving such ratings this easily was normal, as their progress was too fast. The next day, they cleared the third floor with fat grubs with icy chill, gaining another level, 300 grams of magic stone, and another platinum badge. They cleared the 4th floor the following day and the 5th floor the day after that. After completing the 5th floor, Bong received a special notification. Having collected 5 platinum badges from S++ ratings, he gained a special privilege called Awakened Trait Enhancement, which increased his number of simultaneous summons to 2.